Hello, beautiful girl. This is Katie. I'm your dating and relationship coach, and I help women attract and keep high quality men. So in today's video, I wanted to do a part 2 of last week's video, which was on vulnerability. And in this video, I'm not going to so much sell you on why you need to be vulnerable, but I am going to talk about why it's so hard to be vulnerable. I'm going to share a bit of my story. When I was first dating my husband, we were coming to this point in the relationship. It was a make or break point in the relationship. So there is always a point in the relationship timeline. It goes from feeling quite anxious, there's no security there. You know, the other person could run and disappear at any point, or you could decide at any point, you know, this is not the right guy and I need to exit out. And the more and more time you spend with that person, the more anxious things become, because the stakes start to rise. It starts to get quite high, right? Because the more time we spend with someone, the more attached we become. And therefore, if it was to end, it would be much more difficult, more painful for it to end. So that was where we were at in the relationship. And we had been dating for about 5 months. Something had happened. We had a big argument about him still having feelings for his ex. And I was at a point where I could either walk away from this, being like, okay, this is too much. He has baggage. I don't deserve this. I could walk away, or I could make that leap of faith, make that leap, be vulnerable, put myself at risk because I wanted to continue forward with him. And I knew if I made that leap, he was able to accept me, then we were going to be like, it was going to be rainbows and daisies and everything was going to be beautiful, right? So there's that moment in a relationship where it transitions from dating casually, no security at all, to taking your relationship to the next level where there is security, there is trust, there's confidence, and you can settle in, right, to the relationship. And that's the point that we all want to get to. That's where we all want to be, right? We all want to be in a committed relationship, to feel that level of security and settledness and happiness, knowing that they're not going to disappear. And you have full trust in that other person. They have full trust in you, right? That's the dream goal, right? But in order to get there, you got to make that leap. And I kind of envision, right, you are at the edge of the cliff. And in order to move any further, keep going, you've got to make a big jump, right? And there's a bridge in front of you, but the bridge is broken. So there's a gap between the cliff and the bridge. And if you want to keep going, you've got to make the leap to the bridge to keep going, to get to your happily ever after, so to speak. And you could either miss, right, you fall to your death, or you just decide, nah, I'm out. I'm not even going to try. I'm going to back out and pretty much lose the whole thing. And I think a lot of relationships disintegrate around this point because the tension is so high and the anxiety is so high. It's so much at stake. And there's a lot of insecurities, a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear, that there's a lot of arguing, and lots of things can go wrong at this point. I'm just giving you a breakdown of what to expect. Women, when they hear this, they understand the logic of it. They understand the need to be vulnerable in that moment, because if I hadn't have been vulnerable, then I wouldn't have been able to get married. We wouldn't be married. We wouldn't have built a beautiful life together and have like 2 beautiful, amazing kids together. However, you listening on the other end may be like, okay, that sounds great, but I can't see myself doing that. Or, well, I need to find a guy that, you know, I could do that with. I just don't see, I mean, that just seems so far out of where I'm at. And I totally get that. Okay, so this is why I wanted to make this video, because I want to explain why it's so difficult for you to be vulnerable. First, I want you to know that there's nothing different about me to you. Like, I'm not more tough or more emotionally strong or more able to handle rejection any more than you for me to do this. Okay, we're no different. You're not some special snowflake that is just like weaker and can't handle rejection and pain just breaks you down more than anybody else, right? That's just not true at all. When it comes to vulnerability, it doesn't happen overnight. It has to be built on some kind of foundation first, okay? And that foundation comes from the little baby steps that we need to take in the initial stages of dating. I want to introduce you to this concept of the marble jar of trust. So when we first meet a man that we're interested in, what we need to do is we want to see, like, is he investing in me? Okay, is he depositing marbles into my marble jar of trust, right? So imagine there's a jar, empty jar, and every time he does an action towards you, it builds a little bit of trust, right? And that's like him depositing the marble. And when he deposits a bit of marble into your jar, you give back, right? You feel a little bit of trust, then you also invest in him a little bit, which is like you depositing a marble in his marble jar of trust. Okay, in a healthy, balanced relationship, this is the dance, right? This is how you build trust with someone in a healthy way. You don't just deposit, invest like one after the other yourself without seeing, is it being reciprocated? Without seeing, okay, is he also doing it back, right? And a healthy dance is where you're both building it at the same time, right? Balanced. So that's what had been happening between me and my husband over about 5 months. So he was consistently texting me every single day. And that consistency in texting and speaking every day is really, really important. Every time someone is consistently messaging you, responding to you, texting you, that's putting marbles in your jar, right? And you're building more trust, you're building more confidence in your connection, right? And conversely, every time someone disappears for a day or a week, that's like him pulling the marbles out. That's like marbles coming out, right? So in order for trust to build, you need to see that he's consistent, and there's other actions too. So with my husband, he told me very early on after he met me, he was going to go off the dating apps, and he did that. He meant it. I never really checked up on him. I didn't feel like I needed to. And he was also selling himself as that he would make a great boyfriend. So this is something a man does when he is taking it seriously. And a man only does that when he sees you're taking it seriously. So it was because I was also investing in him, putting marbles in his jar consistently, responding to him every day, right? Asking him personal questions, like on a deeper level, right? Taking the whole process of dating very seriously instead of being wishy-washy. That's why he was stepping up and showing me, okay, I'm boyfriend material. I would make a great boyfriend, like really selling himself, right? Just like someone at a job interview, they're really selling themselves. I felt that from him, which I thought was very charming, right? It was very flattering to have that. But that definitely was depositing more marbles right into my marble jar of trust. So I felt more confident then. I remember he was going to buy a car and he would ask me, what do you think of this car? Would you like this? Would this be comfortable for you, right? So he was really like showing me that he was factoring me into his future. Like buying a car is like kind of like a mini investment, like buying a house, right? He was sort of saying, I'm gonna buy this car with you in mind because I see you in my future. I mean, that was very flattering. So again, putting more marbles in my jar, me feeling more trust, therefore I would move towards him and do things to put marbles in his jar. Okay, I was opening him up more to him, responding to him quicker, that kind of thing. You know, when we would go clothes shopping, I would take pictures of clothes and send it to him and see, does he like this? And what outfit would go with his outfit, right? Just checking, we're checking like what would suit each other when we're together. You know, would this go well together, right? Like it's kind of cute. So it's like little things like that we were doing in the beginning. But the most important thing was consistency. And this is a super important concept, that there has to be daily communication. Okay, every single day talking. Don't break for a week and expect that the trust isn't going to be broken, because it will be. And I see relationships never really get anywhere because people get into this on again, off again thing where they have a certain period of time when they are consistent, and then they have a month go by where they don't talk at all. And every time you do that, you're taking all the marbles out, right? And then you have to start all over again. And a lot of times when you show that behavior once, that person is going to feel a lot less likely to invest. They're going to be like much more slow to want to deposit any marbles in your jar because they're probably thinking, why bother? They're probably going to disappear anyway, so I'm going to put my effort into someone else. That's why that is so important. If you are finding it hard to be vulnerable, it's not because you're weak or you're fragile and you're not tough or any of that. It's probably because you don't have that consistency built up, that you don't have a lot of marbles deposited in your jar of trust. Okay, and on both sides. So you don't have a lot, he's not investing a lot in you and you're not investing a lot in him. So of course you're not gonna be willing to be vulnerable. There's nothing, your relationship's not built on anything solid. So I don't want you to beat yourself up or think there's something wrong. And you may want to analyze your relationships and be like, okay, the reason we haven't been consistent or he hasn't been depositing marbles is because of me. Maybe you have had your walls up. Maybe you push men away when they start to get too close and they start to invest too much. And you just want to be aware, if it is you, that you're the one that is, you know, every time a man puts marbles in, you're kind of like disappearing or pushing him away. That's like you tipping that marble out, right? Like, and you're making sure you're staying at a baseline level. It never really gets anywhere. And you just got to recognize that is why, you know, things don't really progress, and that's why you're not able to be vulnerable, because it's not built on anything. You can't jump into being vulnerable out of nothing. So the very first thing to recognize is, do you actually want to build something with someone? Do you want to take this seriously? You have to be ready for this. You have to be ready and committed to this. For me, it took me 3 years of being single for me to finally get to the point where I was ready and committed to get into that committed relationship. Okay, emotionally ready to do the work. If you're not quite there yet, then don't beat yourself up and tell yourself, oh, there's something wrong with me, I'm just bad at relationships. You know, it's not that. It's because you're not fully committed. When you're fully committed, you know what's on the line and you know what you need to do, and you're just willing to do it. You're willing to finally invest in someone. And once you know you're committed, then you don't just suddenly leap off the cliff, right? You take little steps every day that just feels a little bit uncomfortable. That could be texting a man first, calling a man first, just a little bit uncomfortable. And the next day, it could just be asking a question that's just a little bit deeper, a little bit more interesting than you normally would ask. Okay, just a little bit uncomfortable, and see what the response is. So you just want to commit to a process of every single day doing something a little bit uncomfortable, a little bit outside your comfort zone, so you can start practicing depositing marbles into his trust jar. And then watch, does he do it back? Some men won't, and that's totally fine. That means he's not willing to play that game with you, and then you just move on, right? But eventually, if you're fully committed, you're going to notice when a man starts playing the game back with you. When you put a bit in, he gives you a bit back, right? And it's reciprocal and it's balanced. And then you'll feel that tension of like, oh, we're getting closer and closer and closer. And trust me, every single time you take that step towards him, it will feel uncomfortable. But you've like practiced it every single day, being a little bit uncomfortable, that it starts to be less uncomfortable. And then when you get that point where you do need to actually be vulnerable and take that leap, you'll be a lot more prepared for it. Now, with that said, it will still be very, very scary. Even with me, even though me and my husband had 5 months of consistency built up and I had trust that he wasn't really going to go anywhere, it was still very, very terrifying to do that, what I did. Okay, I'm so grateful that I did, but it doesn't make it any easier, even when there is consistency and trust built up and a lot of investment built up. So I want you to just prepare for that, but you will know it's the right thing to do, because there will come that point where you either make that leap or you risk losing everything, and that's kind of scary, right? I was not willing to just walk away from everything. I wanted to give it a chance. I was taking this process seriously, so that was why I was like taking the little uncomfortable steps every day towards him, because I wanted it to work. And that's why the commitment, the mindset and the commitment to start with is so, so important. It's absolutely normal if you're not willing to be vulnerable, but you don't need to start there. You just need to start with where you are now and start committing a little bit every day to doing something that's uncomfortable to you, and then see where you're at after 30 days. Okay, so that's my challenge to you, and I want to encourage all of you to do this once you feel fully ready and committed to doing this, right? And I would be so proud of you for doing this, right? This is the difference between getting into a relationship, your dream relationship, and not. All right, this is the difference between you having the dream life that you want, married, kids, right? Beautiful husband, and not. Okay, so a lot is on the line, so I encourage you to do it. If you're serious and ready and committed to finally get the relationship that you want, then I invite you to book a call with me. We'll sit down, we'll talk about your particular situation and your goals and map out a plan and potentially work together to make your dreams come true. Coaching is so powerful, and you're going to be able to have your dreams come true so much faster through the process of coaching. This is what I'm fully committed to, and I want you to have the dream relationship you want and the dream life that you deserve. Okay, all you have to do is book that call with me and I will talk to you there. If you like this video, please like me, subscribe to my channel to be notified when I release more amazing videos for you about how you can have the relationship that you finally want. And leave me some comments and some feedback on what kind of videos you would like to see, what you would want me to go more in depth on. I welcome all of your feedback there. And that's all from me. I will talk to you next time.